Hey, yo, what it do? What it do? It's your boy Q. And man, if you guys think it's been busy here recently with some esports, it's about to get crazy. Y'all already know we got to talk about VCT playoffs across all of our regions. I mean, we had it across 2 different weekends. I lost track of time. We didn't even get to do an episode last weekend. We've got Shift Summer League already halfway through their league play for those Rocket League teams, trying to get a little bit of competition before the World Championship as well as the Esports World Cup. We actually going to have another watch party for both EU and NA later today. We've got Esports World Cup for Apex starting up next weekend. And man, things are going to be busy, busy, busy in August across all of our titles. So go ahead and tap in with me down below if you're watching this thing over on YouTube. Tell me which event it is that you're most excited about. Let me know what's up. But man, you know what? Let's go ahead and get down to it. We got a lot to cover. I told y'all we were going to talk about those VCT playoffs. Let's get started off in the Pacific region, just like VCT got things started off, man. It was a banger. I really enjoyed, the play that I got to watch. Obviously, I had to watch back VODs mostly. I didn't get to catch a lot of it live. I tried telling you guys in my predictions. I tried telling y'all that Gen.G was going to be coming out on top. The big surprise for me, though, was DRX. I feel like I was sleeping on DRX quite a bit. Maybe wasn't giving this roster enough credit. Obviously, DRX, they had a really strong stage number 2. I just wasn't sure if they were quite ready enough to be able to play that consistent high level throughout the course of a weekend. They show that they are indeed ready. And really, if you think about it, as far as for Gen.G, Gen.G played and took down the other top 2 teams within the region throughout their course of that upper bracket, taking down, of course, DRX, taking down PaperX. They didn't get a chance to play against Talent. Talent, of course, did secure that 4th spot in the region for Pacific with their victory over Team Secret. Man, I was really hoping to see Team Secret be able to pull through on that. Really thought Team Secret was going to roll in the back half of the stage. I do think Talent Esports, though, also in their own right, they've been looking pretty good for stage number 2. Talent Esports just might be a sleeper team for Seoul. I don't know if it's like a team that I would say is going to pop off or anything like that, but I do think Talent Esports might upset some people. But otherwise, I do feel like Pacific, as much it was like really good play, it pretty well played out how we were expecting. Again, I think the surprise of DRX over PaperX was a little bit surprising for some people. But I even said I wouldn't have been surprised if DRX gave them a run in. Oh no, I had Team Secret there, didn't I? Oh, I really messed up my predictions. Yo, hey, but even if you didn't get to check them, though, you will notice I at least got my pick'ems. I had 3 of my top 4 right, as well as I did have the champions in the grand final also right. I'll make sure I leave a link for those pick'ems right up there so you can kind of see how they compared. Obviously, I gave away one big glaring mistake that I had. But also, man, big shout out to Talent. Again, taking down Team Secret in close knockout action, a best of 3 that went 28 rounds, 2-11-13 matchups. Team Secret, this close, man. That's talking about the difference of qualifying for Seoul or not between these 2 teams. Secret wins that, they qualify. Talon won, so they're going to be the end up being the ones going in that 4th spot as far as based off of points. But Gen.G going to end up being the winners out in Pacific. I gotta say, I really like to see that Gen.G has been able to continue their persistence at the top of Pacific. Remember, when we kind of look back as far as Americas, and of course, we're going to touch on that here in just a minute as far as today, but when you think about Americas, Sentinels, they popped off, at the beginning of the year as far as the tournament, but then they didn't really look good in stage number 1, right? As far as here, well, Gen.G won the last playoffs. They look really good through Pacific. They're now your Pacific champions. We're going to talk about the brackets here very briefly here in just a moment, but I do think Gen.G definitely has to be one of those teams heading into Seoul that you look at as a favorite. I don't know. You guys let me know if you guys think that Seoul is one of those, if you guys think Gen.G is one of those teams that can definitely be a threat as far as when they get to Seoul. Obviously, big shout out to Gen.G continuing their dominance within the region. I do think, though, like the sleeper story really is DRX. It's the story of, the rebuild and then being able to stay consistent, being able to stick to the plan, being able to be comfortable with your roster once you did make those changes at the beginning of the season, right? And then, DRX, they've just looked phenomenal. And even when you look at their matchup against Gen.G, other than obviously the last match, but both of the other 2 maps that they lost, going the distance, forcing an overtime even, I mean, DRX also right there. So I think when you talk about as far as for the top four, pretty close. I think Pacific is going to be a region that definitely is going to be able to make some noise when it comes to champions, right? But of course, Pacific wasn't the only region that had their playoffs. We knocked them across all regions. Also, by the way, we're not going to be covering China just because I don't really watch Chinese VCT. I would hate to be able to go over it. Maybe we'll just briefly look at it. But honestly, I can't really give you a review of the way that I did about all the other regions where we did watch back VODs. We did tune in live. We were actually kind of watching the games itself. You know what I mean? EMEA, though, I would say is probably the region that had the most surprises. I mean, when you look at the upper bracket semifinals here, just very briefly, right? Neither team that was already in that upper bracket, Team Heretics nor Foot, neither of them advancing into that upper bracket final. But of course, we'd be doing disservice to the EMEA playoffs, because honestly, the EMEA playoffs were probably my favorite region to watch when it came to the playoffs, because we had great series, even just from the elimination rounds. I mean, Carmine Corp doing a great job coming out and taking Icebox off of Fnatic, and then forcing Fnatic into overtime onto Sunset. It looked like Carmine Corp was about to be knocking out Fnatic and keeping their dreams alive, which would have been huge for them. Instead, they dropped out, kind of had to wait and see how the rest of things played out for that last spot when it came to Seoul. Spoiler alert, they didn't get it. Team Vitality, I mean, just going on an absolute tear. And it started off with a loss on Haven to Na'Vi. But then after that, the next two maps, they looked phenomenal. I mean, Na'Vi only being able to secure 12 rounds through the last two maps of the knockout round. I did see it posted somewhere that on X from one of the higher ups over at Na'Vi that they are going to be looking to do a roster rebuild. I'm going to be kind of curious to see what that roster rebuild looks like. I know this is obviously a big core of a roster they've kind of kept together for a while. They've underperformed here now for two seasons here now. I'll be curious if they try to go like full rebuild sort of deal, or if they kind of do like a half roster or what they do. Definitely going to be keeping an eye on Na'Vi though during the offseason for sure. But for Team Vitality, I mean, they just ended up going on a tear. They took down Team Heretics in a very hard-fought series. I mean, that series was a banger. Every single map going the distance, whether it was, a 14-12 that goes just into overtime, or I think that was actually supposed to be 13-11 here. I don't know why it says 13-10. But Team Vitality being able to turn some heads, they take down Heretics. And then they ended up having to face off against Heretics again in the lower bracket there as well. So they didn't have Fnatic's number. I was kind of concerned when they went back up to the grand finals to see if they might have a chance to stand up with them. It looked like there for a while they were pretty good. Once they got into bind though, I mean, Fnatic just really hit their form. Momentum did what momentum does best and really started to turn the tides. Fnatic ended up hoisting the trophies. They're going to be able to have a lot of momentum heading into Seoul. And I like the story for Fnatic as well, kind of similarly to the story of DRX of kind of being able to weather the storm, right, and being able to kind of turn things around stage 2 heading into the playoffs. Although DRX weren't able to hoist the trophy in Pacific, Fnatic were. And Fnatic, you take down Foot Esports, you take down Vitality. Yeah, you didn't get a crack at Team Heretics, but I mean, you can only play against the people who do go against you on the opposite side of that bracket. They handled their business. I think they're going to be really fun to watch come Seoul, which of course is going to leave us with the best region out of the three. Maybe a little bit of bias there, right? But let's go ahead and check out Americas, see how the playoffs played out over there. Of course, is it a VCT Americas Stage 2 playoffs without Crew going on a run? Go on a run! Crew going to be able to take down Cloud9 again, I feel like I always say a banger of a series. Honestly, I feel like a lot of VCT this season has been really, really good. Valorant, I think Valorant's at its peak right now when it comes to viewership, as far as the excitement as a viewer. I don't know if the viewership's actually at its peak. I don't know those numbers, but I feel like for me watching it, it's a very exciting brand of Valorant to be watching as a fan. I've been enjoying it. Crew here, I mean, the first two maps going the distance, then going to be able to pull away from them just a little bit on Haven. I mean, Crew, then from there, you aren't able to beat Leviathan, but guess what? The only person who was able to beat Leviathan was G2. But other than that, I mean, you beat 100 Thieves, you take away 100 Thieves' chance of being able to go out to Seoul, right? I mean, Crew doing what they needed to do, getting into that top 3, able to secure themselves a spot. Man, the underdog story for Crew always seems to come around each and every year. Well, I shouldn't say each and every year. It's been a very short, obviously, history here for VCT Americas. But Crew always finds a way to get it done, man. Even in that lower brackets final against Leviathan, I would almost argue Crew in the lower bracket looked better against Leviathan than G2 looked against Leviathan in the grand finals. I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take. You guys let me know down in those comments below. But I think that does, again, go to show the depth that even Americas is going to have when it comes to... So, I mean, honestly, the depth in the 3 regions that I do cover the most. Again, we're not going to really talk about China that much. I can't really tell you that much of it. The 3 regions, they've been really fun to watch this year, man. I think Seoul is going to be so amazing. I saw some people talking about how Seoul shouldn't have a 16-team field. They felt like it was maybe too much for champions. Honestly, I feel like when you look at the competitive nature of all 3 of the at least bigger regions that have been around for a couple years here now, I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, let's even look at it, right? Like when you go and look at champions, just look at how these group stages played out. You know what I mean? Fnatic, DRX, Crew, Billy Gaming, and Group A, pretty stout. Group B, though, Gen.G, FPX, Team Heretics, Sentinels, rough, bro. Group C, Leviathan, Vitality, Trace, Talon Esports. If you ask me, probably sounds like those top 2 are advancing, but I could be wrong. Like I said, Talon could be a sleeper there. And then Group D, other than EDG, and it's just because EDG's, well, I mean, EDG, I mean, it is EDG, though. EDG, I always consider a wild card, man. I just feel like sometimes EDG has a tendency to choke, but usually not during group play, which makes Group D, to me, probably the group of death. I know a lot of people are talking about the strength of Group B. I would definitely say Group B and Group D are the 2 that do, like, give me the sense that are probably going to be the toughest. Just because I think if you look at Group A, like, it's probably Fnatic and DRX, right? Maybe Crew goes on a run, but I think I think they expired their run just to get to this point. And I just don't trust Billy Gaming. You'll notice that that's a theme for the Chinese teams. And I feel really bad for saying that. It's just we haven't seen them perform on the global stage, right? Even in Group B for Team Heretics, you beat FPX. You beat FPX. You have to face up against either Gen.G or Sentinels, 2 teams that you have lost to before this season. So Heretics going to have themselves a tough little road as well. Of course, they won't have to figure it out. They want to get through group play. You know what I'm saying? I do feel like in Group B, though, I feel like it's probably Gen.G and Team Heretics. I just feel like Sentinels probably. I just don't feel like Sentinels have had the momentum in the back half of the split. Or sorry, I keep saying split instead of stage. I just don't think like Sentinels have looked as impressive as I would like them to be heading into this, especially heading into this group. I mean, you start off with Gen.G. Gen.G quite arguably the best team in the world. I think that they do prove that in Seoul. I don't know, man. I feel like it's probably Gen.G, Team Heretics, in Group B. I said it earlier, Group C is probably Leviathan and Team Vitality. Bro, Group D is so hard to call. Like, I would love to call EDG just because I would love to see a 4-region Final Four. Like, I really would. And I think EDG is China's best hope for it. But, man, you're in a group with G2, PaperX, and Foot Esports. I think the good news for them is that to qualify, you're only going to have to beat one of G2 or PaperX. That's the good news. Oh, I guess not. I guess if you beat EDG but then lose to whoever wins between G2 or PaperX, you're probably going to have to... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like looking at that there, when I look at it, I think it's G2 PaperX probably advancing from Group D, just because it, like Foot, Is it fair to really say Foot struggled though in the EMEA playoffs? Foot lost to Fnatic, and then they lost to Heretics. Kind of a tough draw. I think the problem for me is that they did have like one bad map. I guess they didn't have a bad map on against Heretics. Heretics was a banger of a series. Fnatic, they looked awful on Haven. I don't know. I think Group D is probably going to be G2 and Paper X probably. I love the G2 story, man, from Ascension to Champions. Granted, obviously, not the complete roster, but it is the core. I would love to see G2 advancing to the playoffs, honestly. But that's just earlier. That's like very, very early predictions. I'm probably actually going to do a full pick'ems, honestly. Here, maybe this week. Nah, probably not this week. We got a lot going on this week. Maybe next week. So definitely keep an eye on that when it comes to over on YouTube. To make sure you kind of keep an eye for that when that video drops. That's probably going to be my 8 advancing as far as early predictions, but y'all can kind of peep in on that and see if anything changes between now and then. But interested to let me know, I'm interested to hear from you guys as far as what you guys think, as far as early thoughts on Champions, as well as kind of, any surprises that maybe you had from any of the playoffs as far as for VCT. I feel like next week we probably won't have much to talk about Valorant. Maybe we'll kind of peek in. Maybe then we'll look at actual pick'ems. I feel like next week, though, we got a lot that we're going to talk about next week, so maybe we just won't talk about too much VCT. But again, keep an eye out for that video over on YouTube. Otherwise, though, man, I said we're really, really busy right now when it comes to like esports in general, man. I mean, we just had all of our playoffs across all of our regions for VCT. But not only that, RLCS, yeah, for right now, there's a break between RLCS Split 2 Major, which happened a couple weeks ago, and until World Championships. And yeah, we got ourselves a little bit of time before the Esports World Cup, as well as before FIFA E. But right now, we do have that Shift Summer League that has started up. We are halfway through it. I'm recording this on Wednesday here before our watch party for EU. So we are officially halfway through it. 3 of our 6 days have been played out. I feel like when we talk about EU, just in a sense, or I guess first off, if you're listening to this and you haven't caught the videos over on YouTube that we're breaking down week 1, if you're unfamiliar with the format, in each region we have 10 teams, right? So there's going to be 10 teams. Each team is going to play a double round robin. So they're going to play the other 9 teams in their region twice across 6 match days. They play 3 series a day. Okay, they play on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. EU is at 1 p.m. Eastern time. NA is at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're doing watch parties for the most part over on my channel. Sometimes Wednesday NA, depending on my casting, I might not be able to do it like we didn't do it for week 1. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it for week 2 because I do have Stride tonight for their weekly competition. So I might have to take a little bit of a nap ski since that runs late and your boy usually wakes up at, that good 3 a.m. for the gym. So if I am awake, though, we will be watching it. Otherwise, I might be napping before Stride. Oh, what in the world happened here? Oh, give me a second. Can I just get rid of that? We're gonna stay here. All right, we're staying here. We're fine, chat. We're fine. As far as the first 3 days, I feel like when you take into effect that the French 4 have declined invites, they're not playing. We kind of talked about that on the Stride, or not the Stride. We talked about on the Frost podcast a couple of weeks ago. I feel like for the most part, pretty well playing out the way that you would expect it. I mean, Oxygen sitting at the top at 8-1, although they made it tough on themselves yesterday, day 3, man. They had themselves, I think it was 3 game 5s. Yeah, 3 game 5s. They tried giving away some series, but they're currently sitting at 8-1, 100% looking good. Luna Galaxy also looking very, very good. Those are probably the 3 favorite teams right now as far as how they're playing. Jobless, their problem, despite the fact that they are also sitting at 5-4. You'll see a whole bunch of teams sitting at 5-4 actually. Jobless, man, they're like so hit or miss. They are either playing out of their minds or you just wonder what's going on. And that's going to cause issues, I feel like, for Jobless, especially when they play against some of the top, or the more top tier teams, not only these last couple of days, but when it comes to the playoffs as well. You also got Sweatod, you got Fake GA. Fake GA has 2/3 of the SSL roster, the Carmine Corp Killers. So that rounds out your top 6 when it comes to EU. Over in NA, though, and let me just reopen this here the hard way. There we are. Bada bing, bada boom. For those guys in the room, how you doing? Over in NA, man, we've also been having ourselves some pretty good play. Also halfway through, it's actually the squad of RMC, Reddles, Magic, Cheese. The old LG roster sitting at 7-2, sitting at the top. Gen.G, a team that after day number 1, I think was sitting in 9th place. Might even have been sitting in 9th place. No, it wouldn't have been after week 1. It was definitely after day number 1, though. They were sitting down 9th place, currently sitting in 2nd at 6-3. They have won 6 straight, I believe. Right? They lost all 3. No, they went 1-2. So they started off 1-3, and they have won 5 in a row over on the side of Gen.G. Gen.G has been looking really, really stout. Even SSG has been looking pretty good as well. Their only loss last night was to, or sorry, their 2 losses last night were the 2 teams that are above them, RMC as well as Gen.G. I feel like Space Station Gaming looks really good. Shopify looking solid as well. Dignitas with the pickup of Zanil looking really, really stout. G2 rounding out your top 6. So when you look at the top 6, really, I feel like there's a gap between them and Incorrect, Pirates on a Boat, OG, and Fun. Really surprised to see OG performing down where they're at 2-7. Of course, they do have the lowest, they have a pretty small round differential. So you can see a lot of their series have gone the distance, right? A lot of 3-2s. You can also see that when you look at, I mean, just OG scores, right? A lot of 3-2s for them in this game, the games that they have won, at least as far as for OG. NA's been a blast to watch, I think, just because as much as G2 is seen as the best team in the world, you are seeing that ceiling as high as it is. There's not a big gap between them and the rest. I mean, again, G2 really right now sitting in 6th. They've only got a +2 game differential, sitting at 5-4. The lowest of the 5-4 teams as far as that game differential here as well. Now, we are halfway through, right? We do still have day number 4, which is tonight at 7 p.m. And then next week, we got games on both Tuesday and Wednesday. But, man, I feel like, for me, Shift Summer League, man, all of the games next week are going to hold so much weight, especially for when we're talking spots 3 through 6. More so probably going to be for seeding, unless Incorrect can go on another run. What's funny about Incorrect, got swept day number 1, then they swept their days in day number 2, and they got swept in day number 3. So Incorrect's been on this crazy up and down run here as of late. They're going to have to find some bit of consistency, and there's literally only 3 more days of play left as far as for league play. And because there's only 3 more days left, and because that gap is so big between that 6 and 7 spot, something tells me for NA as opposed to EU, because over here in EU, right, like your 7 and 8 squad, they're at 4 and 5, just like we have at 6, and then we have a couple of 5 and 4 teams. So that gap is very, very small over in EU, whereas opposed to over here in NA, once you get past that 6 spot, like, yeah, it's 2 games. But then also the big thing is when you look at the series differential, like the game differentials, right? As far as how have the series gone for some of these teams. I just don't believe that they're going to have the chance to turn it around and be consistent within those 3 days. You figure for a team like Pirates on a Boat, they're at 6-3 now. They're going to have to go, 8-1 in the last 3 play days? Like, I just don't see that happening. You know what I'm saying? All respect to the Pirates on a Boat squad, because they have been looking really, really good this weekend, despite some of their sweeps. I mean, some of their sweeps, like even against Gen.G, I mean, they kept Gen.G to some pretty close games. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I feel like NA is really, really showing the depths in its region. I am hoping, since we are seeing still some young talent kind of popping their heads out here during the Shift Summer League, I've even been listening in, kind of doing our watch parties. We've been listening in to some of these other casters, talking about some of these young players who are probably going to be getting themselves some big tryouts this offseason. Hopefully we get ourselves a good little roster mania, shakes things up. One thing that Llama and I always talk about over on the Meltdown with the Frost podcast is how I would love to see some of these younger talented teams with where you have these younger players threes, send them kind of off with some veterans here and there. When you look at a team like TSM, how good would Wavy do if he were to like slide in the, look at how good Zanil's looked sliding in with Evo in Arsenal, right? That's is kind of what I'm talking about. Take Zanil and put him kind of that Zanil, another younger talent, right? Have that sort of correlation. Because right now you kind of have a lot of your veteran teams and then a lot of your newer teams. I would like to see more of that mix. I think that would actually make NA stronger. One thing that you always hear people talking about is how as much as Rocket League has continued to get better throughout the years, I don't think we've come anywhere close to what that ceiling can be. I think we still have so much more potential for how much greater the esport can grow. The best way that we can do that in NA is seeing more of that mixing from the new talent as well as with the old talent and see them kind of gelling together. I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys think down in those comments below. That Shift Summer League, NA, EU, like I said, we're going to be doing watch parties over here and over on Twitch, so make sure y'all are pulling up. All right. Esports World Cup, we got our invited teams for Rocket League. Let's take a look at them here real quick. So in NA, our invited teams are G2, Space Station Gaming, and Gen.G. You'll kind of notice a trend here. It's pretty well teams how they performed in Split 2 of RLCS. So Gentlemates, BDS, Vitality, no Carmine Corp as far as for the invited teams to the Esports World Cup. Falcons and Twisted Mind for Mina, for OCE, Power, as well as Chiefs, who did perform better than the Pioneers, but only barely, although the Pioneers are going in that world spot for that second one. We've got Furion, Team Secret from South America. APAC, I don't know who across the pond is, the second team next to Gaiman Gladiators. Not sure why Elevate's not there. I'm guessing because they're wanting to stick with like mostly like literally local talent to those regions, which also we're seeing. It's hard to see because my camera here on the video here, but this logo right next to me, whoop, right there, that's Limitless. And then also the other team is the Nkosi Ballers. For our teams or for our viewers and listeners who are familiar with the SSA region, it looks like the Nkosi Ballers picked up the 9 Lies roster and is going to be playing with them over in the Esports World Cup. So we have our invited teams. That's still not until, we still got about another month until the Esports World Cup for Rocket League there. What we do have, though, coming up for the Esports World Cup. Oh, by the way, flashbang for our flashbang warning for our viewers who are watching over on YouTube. My bad. Probably should have warned you. That's my bad. We've got the Esports World Cup, though, starting up next week. We'll probably be starting up right around the time that we're doing our next episode. So I do want to kind of at least give some early predictions, early thoughts, kind of go over this just a little bit. I know we're already getting close to that 30-minute mark that I am trying to keep these podcast episodes to as for now. So I only want to very briefly go through it. We got 2 different groups. The way that this thing works over here in group number in each group, when they play, they're taking the top 9 teams. They automatically advance to the finals. All right. The 20th place team eliminated. Those other 10 teams that are left, placed 10 through 19, they're going to be in the last chance qualifying round. In that last chance qualifying round, the top 2 teams advance. We're not doing the drop shifts for the POIs. This is the old school one drop ship that goes one way or another or this way or that way down the map, which means we should be seeing contests and things. And not just that. Hold the phone. Timeout. We've got some new news that dropped. I can't really say today. It actually dropped yesterday. But in case you haven't heard, the exploit. Now, I can't say it's an exploit because they just said it was originally intended. But being able to use the fuse ult on an evac tower has been changed. I have not been able to watch any scrims yet, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect the meta. I feel like we've been seeing a bunch of people using fuse though, so we'll see how that changes things. Fuse was a very big player as far as in the meta. If that automatically kind of takes him out, maybe that brings in more Seers into play. That way you at least have one scan because the Seer does seem better than Bloodhound. I don't know. I'll check in. I'll let you guys know next week as far as on the podcast for our episode next week. All right, because I'm going to try and get back into doing these things once a week for you guys. But for Group A, obviously Falcons being over there should be a pretty easy qualifier. I feel like in Group A, where's my mouse? There it is. Top 9 probably looks something like Falcons, Aurora, Twisted Minds, which is the Legends gaming squad. They got picked up by Twisted Minds for the Esports World Cup. Probably FaZe Clan, Makers, Luminosity, Pioneers. How's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 2 more. Did I say Crazy Raccoon? Probably Crazy Raccoon, which of course is the old Reject Winity roster. And then, I don't know, maybe throw in Guild, because I think Guild's looked decent. Or maybe even Team Liquid. Team Liquid wouldn't be bad. I know my boy Llama would love to see Disguise pop in there. We don't even know who their third is, for real. Group B is going to be fun to watch, though. I feel like we're going to see Fnatic. I think TSM, which TSM, we should really sit down and do it like I talk about one of these days, chat. TSM, a team that I think a lot of people were counting out when Hal left, especially because that was their IGL. People were kind of wondering how they were performing. The fact that they performed as well as they have during ALGS with the pick up a Zap seeming to pick up the IGLing role pretty well, which allows the duo synergy of Reps and Verholz to continue to do their thing. I think they can still make some noise. Just like I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some noise when it comes to championships for ALGS, but that's a conversation for another day. You feel like, though, Group B is probably something along the lines of TSM, Na'Vi, Not Moist, Fnatic, Alliance for sure. Bro, SSG's been so up and down. You can say the same thing about Elevate. Probably SSG. I would love the Passion story there as well. Passion, NRG. God, it's so hard to vote against Virtus Pro, but Virtus Pro looks so bad in ALGS Split 2. You know what? Go ahead and add in Virtus Pro for one of my in Group B, just because I can't count out Pricey and Sharky together. Them with Way. I feel like that squad still has potential. We'll do a little bit more deep dive into this next week, chat. Let me know your guys' early thoughts and predictions as far as Esports World Cup. Definitely, though, down in those comments below for show. But yeah, man, look at that. I think I actually got this thing pretty close to that 30-minute mark. Your boy ain't doing too bad, man. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Chat, I appreciate y'all pulling up for another episode number 12 here of the On Cue podcast. Whether you're watching this thing over on YouTube, whether you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, make sure you're leaving a review if you're over on Spotify or something. Help your boy out with those. If you're watching over on YouTube, remember every like, every comment, those things help out with the algorithm, helps them pump the content in front of more people. Not just this, but of course we do a little bit of everything over here. We kind of do some reviews, we do some pick'ems, we do, kind of talk about some results of events as well with our TLDR series, kind of like we're doing right now for this Shift Summer series. So, check out, kind of see what's your flavor. If you guys enjoyed the vibe and you want to make sure you're back for the next one, obviously make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on. Until we do catch y'all back for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. It's your boy Q, signing out.